So I noticed when I was editing the previous video that I forgot to put description colon here, but let's go ahead and load the page anyhow and see what we get. So I'm going to hit reload, and I got uncaught syntax error unexpected identifier in animals.js. And actually I have some other problems. So I have double quotes inside of my double quoted string on the panda line. So let's fix that first. So we'll go up to panda and find the double quotes. So right here, and use backslash double quote to escape a double quote inside of a double quoted string. And the syntax highlighting was warning me about that as well. So I have more double quotes here and more double quotes here. Save, and let me do a quick scan looking for any black text that shouldn't be black, and it looks good. And then reload, and I still have an error, so unexpected identifier. Oh, so here's a problem. So JavaScript sometimes caches values, and when you hit reload, it doesn't load the new one. And the way you fix that is you can either go to settings, more tools, clear browsing data, and clear the cache, or you can also go to this network tab here and look where it was loading that file. So here's animals.js, and I'm going to click there, and actually I'm going to click disable cache and hit reload. So now status is 200, which means it fetched it. And now I have the unexpected token curly bracket. And here I'm getting the curly bracket, and the reason is because I don't have that description tag. So let's go ahead and put description in there. Save. And now caching is still disabled, so it should load the new one. And it does, and I don't have any errors. So now I have data. Let's do something with it. And I'm going to go to my flicker.js next. And let me make this a little bigger. So the flicker, I'm going to create a function which returns a flicker object. And the flicker object is going to be my manager for this content and for displaying an image in the content pane and so on. So this is going to be a function that when called returns an object. And we haven't learned about classes in JavaScript yet. That's going to be later on. So what I'm going to do just for now is I'm going to call this flicker, and I'm going to use an uppercase F because it's constructing an object, even though this isn't a real constructor. And then I'm going to have to pass some values in. So one thing I need to know is the content that I want to display, flick through. So there's going to be my animals array. And then another thing I need to know is where I want to store this HTML that I generate. So that's going to be the div box. And I'm going to call that the doc. And that should be enough for now. And what this is ultimately going to do is it's going to return an object. So what is this object that it's going to return? It's going to have some properties. It's going to have an action that gets called when the user clicks on a right button and an action that gets called when the user clicks on a left button. And so I'm going to add some properties to this object to hold those functions. So this is left click colon, and it's going to be a function. And then there's going to be a right click, which is going to be a function. And then I'm going to fill in the code for this in a minute. So what I need to track inside of this closure, so this is going to create a closure because I'm calling a function and returning some functions inside of there, is the current position. So it's going to start at the first one. And then I also want to keep track of the length of the content. And I could fetch this each time just by saying content.length, but I might as well grab it once because it's not going to be changing. So what happens when the user clicks on the left button? Well, if you're on 0, you want to display 1. If you're on 1, you want to display 2, and so on. If you're on the last one, I'm going to have that wrap around. So if the content length is equal to the position after I add 1 to it, I'm going to set it to 0. And I could write that like this. I could say content plus plus if content equal length, then content equals 0. So that will wrap around. But there's a more concise way of doing this using modular arithmetic. So let's say, for example, var x is equal to an array with x, y, z. So x dot length is 3. And if I go 1 plus 1 mod 3, I get 2. 2 plus 1 mod 3 is 0. 0 plus 1 mod 3 is 1, and so on. So it wraps around the way I want it. So all I need to do here is content equal content plus 1 mod length. So it does the same thing, a little more concise. And then I want to display content. So this is going to set the current position. It's actually, I'm sorry, it should be position, not content. There. So position is position plus 1 mod length, and then display content based on the current position. Now for right clicks, it's a little tiny bit more complicated because if I go 2 minus 1 mod 3, that works correctly, and 1 minus 1 mod 3 works correctly as well. But if I'm on 0, I don't actually get 2 like I want. What I actually get is minus 1. So the way to fix this is to add length to it. So 2 minus 1 plus 3, 1 minus 1 plus 3, 0 minus 1 plus 3. So just a little trick. So here what I'm going to do is position equal position minus 1 plus length mod length. And then display content. Now let's look at what's happening with position. So I said before that Flickr was closed over this local variable position, which means that anything that's defined inside of Flickr, anything that's lexically scoped inside of Flickr, can access the value of position and set the value of position. And it also means every time I call this function Flickr, that's going to create a new closure with a new copy of the local variable position. So each Flickr has its own position stored inside of it, and then these methods on this object are going to be accessing that local value. So that's how the state is built in, and these methods can access that state. So the only other thing I need is display content. And what I'm going to do here is define a local function that also has access to this position variable. But then this is like a local variable. It's a local function. It's only visible inside of this function. And so I can have as many display contents as I want, one associated with each of these Flickr objects, and they're not going to step on each other. So for display content, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set the inner HTML of this doc doc.innerHTML. And for testing purposes, I'm just going to set that to be an h2 with content subposition dot name plus close h2. So all it's going to do is display the name inside of whatever the doc is. And then I'll beef this up to display the image and the description later on. So this is going to be everything I need to display. And then one other thing I want to do is as soon as this thing gets loaded and created, I also want to initialize this placeholder to be displaying the first image. And so I'm just going to call display content before I return my object. There. So that should be everything that I need right now for the Flickr. And then I need the glue logic that's actually going to create a Flickr object and hook up these two methods to the buttons and get the div tag and the content and so on. So let me go ahead and go to my AnimalFlicker demo. And I want all this stuff to happen inside of an init function that gets called when the window is loaded. So function init is going to do some stuff, and window.add event listener on load is going to call init. And then what init is going to do is it's going to get my Flickr object. It's going to pass in my content, which is going to be in animals.js. And it's also going to pass in the content div box, which is ID content. So that gets me my Flickr object, and then I need to hook up the left click action and right click action to those two buttons. So that's going to be document.get element by ID left button, and then I want to add a click event listener to this element. So this thing is going to listen for clicks, and when they get clicks, it's going to call that method. So that's add event listener click. The function it's going to call is going to be my flickr.left click method. And then the same thing for the right button. Okay, so that's a little complicated. Let's see if it works. I'm going to hit reload, and I have an error. So missing parenthesis after argument list. So that's right here when I'm calling the function that makes my Flickr object. Okay, so it's showing the first one, which is Fennec. If I click left, Quokka, Piggy, Panda, Puppy, cycles back to Fennec. And then the left button, opposite direction. So this is all working. The only thing I need to do is beef up this HTML a little bit. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So I'm going to start with a H2, and then I'm going to display the image. And actually what I'm going to do this, build the HTML first, and then set all of the inner HTML at once. So let's say var HTML equals that. and then HTML plus equals, let's put a carriage return new line in here. So I want an image tag, source equal, and here I want to put a double quote for my HTML, so I'm going to put single quotes on the outside. There's my double quote and the single quoted string. Then I want to add content position dot image, and then single quoted string. Here's the double quote that ends source equal double quote image name double quote. That's it for the image. Carriage return new line. That's it for my single quoted string. And then description. Let's put that in a paragraph. And then we'll close the paragraph off. Carriage return new line. And that should be it for this simple demo. Let's go ahead and load, see what we get. Oh, so I have an error. Invalid or unexpected token. Oh, single quoted string. I forgot to close that off correctly. Yeah, so this should be single quote there. There. Okay, so I built my HTML and I didn't set the doc value to it. So doc dot inner HTML equal HTML. So there's my Fennec. So description is not working here. Oh, because I misspelled description. There. So there's my text. Now you'll notice this was actually Unicode, and I'm not getting the right Unicode set. So we need to define the char set in our HTML file. And I forget exactly what I need to do, so I'm going to look that up. So UTF-8 char set HTML. That's the meta char set attribute in the head. And then reload. Good. So there's the Arabic for Fennec. And we'll flick. So my Quokka image is broken. I forgot images slash Quokka. So let's go to animals.js. Images slash Quokka. Let's get rid of some of those. Oh, so this was cached, I guess. So I may have to, nope, there it goes. Okay, so I had to reload. And there's the Quokka description. And there's my piggy and my panda. So the other thing I'm going to do just to make this a little easier to look at is I'm going to go ahead and make the image sized. So I'm going to put that in my CSS. So let's go to the Flickr first. Here's the image. I'm going to attach a class. So this is going to be class equal Flickr image. And then in my animals.css, I'm going to add Flicker image, and I'm just going to specify a width of 600 pixels. Actually, did I reload? Here, reload. And inspect. So that's Flicker image. So it's not getting, oh, got it that time. Okay, so I might not have saved, or I needed to reload again or something like that. Okay, so let's make it a little smaller. Let's make it 400. There we go. So now I can see the text. Okay, so I could obviously do some more work on the layout to make it prettier, but I'm going to say that's enough for this video.